from the blackest corners of your mind, they call, pulling you deep into shadow, twisting your senses, keeping you from sleep. It's time to face your darkest fears. This is Tales to Terrify. Good evening, children of the night, and happy Halloween. Not only is tonight All Hallows Eve, it also happens to be our 666th episode. Coincidence or infernal design? I'll let you decide. To help celebrate, we're releasing a devilishly good bonus story for our patrons. If you're not a member, I'm not saying joining right now will help protect you from the evils that are lurking, but I'm also not saying it. Before we dive into our evening's tricks, I've got another tasty little treat to share with you. Last week, we had a book giveaway, and this week, we're doing it again. Gordon B. White is creating haunting weird horrors. That's both a statement of fact and the title of Gordon's anthology, which we've got a signed copy of that we're giving away to a lucky patron. The book just hit its 1-year anniversary in the middle of October, so it's a perfect time to share it with all of you. In his second collection, Gordon B. White, finalist for the Shirley Jackson and Bram Stoker Awards, brings his evocative prose and stylistic invention to bear in 15 tales of ghost-possessed postcards and dinner party demons, a mercenary assault on God's dead body, and a drink with the devil itself, as well as haunted houses, riots in the streets of redacted, families who tear themselves apart only to sew each other back together, and more. Infused with dark humor and an occasional glimmer of hope, these stories showcase the impressive range of Gordon B. White's haunting weird horrors. If you've listened to Tales to Terrify for a while, you're no doubt already familiar with some of Gordon's range and his ability to scare up delightfully strange fiction. He's been a regular contributor to the show for some time, after all. If you want to grab yourself a copy of this fantastic collection of short horrors, follow the link in the show notes. Or join us on Patreon to win your own copy signed by Gordon himself. Plus, keep an ear out for Seth's interview with Gordon coming before the end of the year to our Patreon author interview series. Alright, with the veil between worlds at its thinnest, I guess I'd better get on to our main features before the spirits get any more restless. Our first story tonight comes from Akis Linardos. In a cove of a Greek island, Akis was born a rather peculiar infant, and has only grown stranger every year. By day, he's a researcher of biomedical AI and ethics, hoping there's something less dystopian to come from this technology. His short tales have wormed their way into Apex Magazine, Gamut, Apparition Lit, Heartline Spec, among others. Visit his website for updates on his dreadful machinations. Children of the night, join me for Akis Linardos' His Belly A Coffin, first published in Inner Worlds, November 2023.
Her newborn suckles on her breast as rain leaks from 5 spots on the thatch roof, collecting on the iron buckets. Drip, Drip, drip. Now that the woman holds something so precious in her arms, the walls seem frail to armor them against the beastly night. The lantana leaves shape crosses on the windows, their only ward, magic to keep the creature at bay. Drip, drip, drip. Her eyes flicker at the oak wood door, thrashing to the wind. She imagines a squealing cow, gray, purpled, with bulging veins and large snout to abduct her baby boy whole, cloistered in bovine gums. The screams of her own mother still echo in the woman's ears from when the Lagahoo had taken her sister, and in its place abandoned a dog-faced doll. And if her mother was to be believed, her sister suffers still, as she will for eternity in the belly of the beast. Drip, drip, drip. A shuddering thought seizes her, her baby caged by stomach walls. Is this anguish and defenselessness the cost of holding a precious newborn? Is that loud pumping of her own blood and the raging sleeplessness the price of life? The lantana leaves will ward us, she whispers, mostly to herself and not her child, eyeing the lantana cross again. Here, we are safe. At dawn, the woman brews lemongrass tea and callaloo stew, using thickened goat's milk instead of coconuts. There's fleeting comfort in the redolent vapors. The wind carries dust that cakes her windows, turning the glass into a blurry lens through which the outside world seems alien. She craves the company of someone, anyone at all, even a drunkard like her husband. Her man is a pirate, gone looting but soon to return, a flimsy broomstick of a man, but still, a broken shield is better than none. She hunches over her thatch basket, counting the leftover carrots, turnips, and salted pork. 2, 3, 1. Should last her 3 nights. Then she'll have to visit the market and reveal her newborn to the village. What if the shape-shifting Lagahoo lurks among their ranks? What if it gets its scent, then craves a taste? But she couldn't just leave it home all alone. Better do the shopping today. Get it done during Sabbath, when the streets are empty but for the desperate peddlers pitching their wares into thin air. She tucks her baby in a cloth sling and hoists it around her shoulders. Her hand over the cold pommel of the oak wood door, she freezes a moment, sucks a deep breath, then exits the house. Cold wind juggles tumbleweeds over the dirt road, and rabbits' paws dot the mud. But there is also something else. Shivers shake her body so hard her baby starts crying. The woman rushes back in, sings a shaky lullaby, and tries hard to forget the image of fresh footprints leading up to her door. Footprints belonging to no animal she knows, and to no man either. Unless there was a man with claws instead of toes. Her father had once told the woman the Lagahoo can be anything. Anything. When it's not hiding, it takes on bovine shape, displaying its veins and lungs. The Lagahoo enjoys the feel of cold air on its organs, and it wants to cool the blood pumping its shapeless body, because congealed blood can be molded into anything like clay. It helps the creature mold itself into a man or woman, dog or cow, and even non-living things. It can be a merchant, and it can be their stall and fruits. It can be the cream inside their sweetened bread, the cherries nesting on their cakes. It can be the cradle hosting your newborn. And it maybe was so for her sister, though none witnessed the transition. Maybe the cradle sprouted teeth. Maybe the pillow her butt nested on turned into a wet, slimy tongue to slide her into the belly of the beast. Curtain shut, doors locked. The woman won't visit the market. There's enough food to get by for another night or 2. And when these nights pass, she hunts the cockroaches and ants and tosses them into the cast-iron kettle with oil and salt. The chitinous legs crunch, and their atomic fluids suffuse the stew with foul bitterness. But they provide sustenance to her body, enough for her breasts to keep producing milk for her baby. She won't reveal her baby, not to the village men, nor even the women, not to anyone who could be the Lagahoo wearing human skin. Moonlight casts slants through the thatch roof and shines silver upon her beautiful boy. Pale skin, a scattering of blonde hair, and a sprinkle of freckles. So soft, so fragile, so easy to break. Not if the woman has any say in it. The beast will never touch her sweet babe. She'll stay home until her man returns. Drunkard or not, her man can bring vegetables and oxtail home from the market. Yes, she will wait. And wait. Until, in the thick night, finally, someone, must be her husband, knocks thrice upon her door. Knock, knock, knock. But what if? What if the Lagahoo comes clad in her own man's skin? How will she tell? Someone, something keeps knocking on her door. Something bangs upon her door, thrashes the wood, rattles the hinges. It's only the wind, she tells herself. Only the wind, yes. But what about the footsteps leading up to her door? The Lagahoo can be anything. What if the Lagahoo took the shape of her own door? The woman hurries to the kitchen, the baby crying on the cloth sling swinging madly around her neck. She grabs the sword leaning beside the countertop, the scimitar of her pirate husband, werewolf silver and mirror bright, a glinting razor, sharp to cut through oxtail bone. The door thrashes, the door clatters. Something rams against her door. It yells her name and swears at her, like that drunkard husband used to swear. The Lagahoo wants to fool her, using her man's voice and his profanity. It craves to come inside, to eat her baby whole. The woman sprints, sword cupped in her hands, pointed like a horn from her own belly, and with a rush, the woman thrusts the knife into the door's heart. A scream. A man's throes. The door is silent, still now. A pool of blood spreads from the crevice below. Wind hisses through the paper-thin cracks between its wooden planks. And now the woman wonders, can the Lagahoo turn into blood? Can it shift into the wind? Can it take the form of rain, or of the moonlight piercing through the thatch? The woman takes paper towels, bundles of hay, and plugs every crevice and nook and cranny. Now the house is truly shut. She will not leave this place, not until her child has grown tall with his mother's milk, and with the rats his mother will cook with love. Not until its muscles are too stringy to satisfy the foul appetite of the Lagahoo. Now the walls bulge in, the thatch roof swells down, and the woman thinks it will all come crashing down on them. But it doesn't. The bulge deflates, the roof settles in, and then it repeats the motion again, like the inside of a breathing lung. Bulge, deflate, bulge, deflate, bulge, deflate. Fog covers her brain. She blinks, she rubs her eyes, pressing her knuckles against the eyelids, and then she curls over her baby boy, letting his soft breathing caress her ear. The night is endless. The sun refuses to worm out of the blackness. Even the moon no longer shines through the roof or the window creaks. Purple vines cover the walls that entomb her and the baby. Vines? Veins? The woman is not sure. Overhead, branches hang down, like wizened arms with thumbless, many-fingered hands clutching apples. Apples juicy with the color of blood and redolent with the smell of cooked meat. Head lolling, the woman rocks back and forth, cross-legged on the floor, her baby on her lap. A haze of wet, sanguine ash itches her skin, makes it hard for her to think. But oh, the taste of it, so savory and soup delicious when it touches her flaccid tongue. The woman wonders what has become of her drunkard of a man. How long since his pirate ship went off looting? 2, 3, 4 months? More? It matters little. She has no need for him. She is the armor of their baby boy. No, not theirs. Hers. Her baby boy. And hers alone. The woman is the only shield her boy needs. The woman now stands, the boy tucked in the urine-stained cloth sling. She reaches up, at an apple hanging from the orchard overhead, and plucks it. Sticky mucus clings to the fruit, connecting it still to the branch fingers. The apple pulses on her palm, synchronized to the rhythm of the pulsating house, synchronized to her own beating heart. Her lips swell, reaching for the fruit's skin, craving its flesh. With a crunchy bite, the fibrous gaminess sticks to her gums, and the apple's tangy juices trickle from the corners of her mouth. One day, the woman, then a girl, asked her father, how could someone suffer for eternity in the belly of the beast? Wouldn't starvation take them within a month or 2? Her father bid her imagine a beast that changes forms, a beast that has no shape. Imagine the insides of this beast, how they can also shift and change, how its flesh expands and the organs sprout more organs. Like a vineyard, growing and growing, so long as there is sunlight and water to suck. And the girl was curious if she understood correctly. A beast that changes outside also changes inside? But how could anyone know? But no one knows these things with certainty, her father said. There is only outlandish logic to wrap around the logahoo. The girl still failed to understand. What did the shape-shifting have to do with the eternal suffering of ones devoured? How would the shifting insides of the beast keep them from starving? Then the girl's father tucked her close, pressing her head on his chest and kissing her forehead with his prickly beard stubble and whiskey breath. Shifting insides always offer delicious flesh. It matters little, my sweet child, but hunger leads any creature, human or beast, to madness. There are no windows, no doors, no gaps between the wooden shafts of the walls. Maybe there never were. There's only one room housing the woman and her newborn. Perhaps there always was one room. Perhaps there was never a village, an island, or even the Caribbean. Perhaps it was always the woman and her baby boy, the only things in existence, surrounded by pulsating walls of creaking wood, the musky scent of decay, and the orchard of succulent fruit. What a comforting thought. After the woman bites on yet another plucked apple, she swings it over her baby's mouth. The bitten part trickles its blood juices down the boy's tiny tongue, staining its gums that have yet to form teeth. Now they are free of hunger and fear. No logahoo to terrorize them, no kidnapping beast to steal her sister. Such things were never real. No dog dolls left behind, no footsteps on the mud, no screaming mothers, no abusive pirate husbands. The woman eyes her own feet, feeling slow, prickly pain where the ants and spiders nibble her toes. Too groggy to do anything about it, she looks around, her house blurry through squinting eyes. The soothing heartbeat surrounding her carries her into comforting thoughts. There are no windows, no doors, not even gaps into the wooden shafts. The crosses the woman once wove out of lantana leaves now lay withered and blackened on the floor. But that is all right too, because they are no longer needed. This house armors them, and there is no opening. Not the slightest nook or cranny for dangerous creatures to crawl in and hurt them. Here they are safe. Here they will stay.
That was Akis Linardos' His Belly A Coffin, as read by S.H. Cooper. S.H. Cooper is a Florida-based voice actress and multi-genre author with a focus on horror and fantasy. When not playing make-believe in her recording booth or on the page, she's playing make-believe in video games, or talking in weird voices to her husband and pets. Thank you, S.H. Or talking in weird voices to her husband and pets. Thank you, S.H. Our second tale tonight comes from Derek Allen Jones. Derek Allen Jones spends most of his time working in a warehouse in Kansas, and the rest of it writing speculative fiction. His work has appeared in the Saturday Evening Post, Gamut, Orion's Belt, and Utopia Science Fiction, among others. Find it all at DerekAllenJones.com. Listen with me, children of the night, to Derek Allen Jones's I'm Not Missing, a Tales to Terrify original.
They brought the dogs out to the river today. For hours they walked, noses to the ground, up and down that western bank, as 4 stern men in dark jackets sipped coffee from paper cups. The tedium of it all would break for a moment here and there, every time one of those dogs would bark, or whine, or paw the ground, and one of those men would place a flag in the dirt, and another would take a photo, and the other 2 would whisper to each other, while trying to hide the glances they shot nervously across the water. Those men are thorough, and they're determined, and they're good at what they do. And as close as they are getting now, there's little doubt left that they'll find what they're looking for any day. But what they find will not be me, because I'm not missing. Every minute those men spent working, across the water on the eastern bank, my mother stood watching, shivering, in a sweater that wasn't quite thick enough for an early morning in November. When the dogs would stop and the men would move, she'd clutch that cardigan at the collar, and the mist that rose with each breath she let out would pause for a minute or so, and her shoulders and neck would tense until the dogs went to work again. She's waited so long for answers, and I'm glad she'll have them soon. But she knows by now that I'm not coming home, that those answers won't change what happened. There was nothing in the world I wanted more than to call to her, to go to her, to put my arms around her and to keep the cold away. To tell her to go home and be warm and let those dogs finish their work. To tell her she didn't need to be there to see the things that they would find. Because whatever they find and whenever they find it, what they find will not be me. Because I'm not missing. I'm not the bones they'll pull from the alcove underneath that western bank. I'm not the blood spatter evidence. I'm not the headlines in the paper or the stories on the evening news. I'm not an episode of a podcast or a chapter in a book or a photo from a crime scene that someone leaked and posted online. When I'm thought of as the victim, I can feel his hands on my throat again. When I'm thought of as remains to be found, I can feel the cold of the river water. When I'm thought of as a tragedy, I can feel the breaking of my mother's heart. I don't want to feel those things anymore. I am not a tragedy. I never was until the end. I am not those few awful minutes. I am not the things that were done to me. I'm the 4-year-old with the Elvis sneer in the picture on the mantle. I'm the medals and the trophies on the shelf in my old room. I'm the box of wrinkled drawings at the top of the bedroom closet. I'm the one who walked at commencement, to the surprise of at least a few, on the day I received the diploma in the frame that's hanging in the hall. I'm all of those songs we sang in the car, so long and so loudly our throats went sore. I'm every casual I love you. I'm every goodnight kiss. I'm everything my mother taught me. I'm every word I ever said to her. Those are the things to remember. Those are the things I am, and that is where they'll find me. Because I'm not missing. I'm right where I've always been.
That was Derek Allen Jones's I'm Not Missing, as read by Emily Strand. Emily Strand is a writer, musician, and college professor living in Ohio who really enjoys robots. Thank you, Emily. Our final tale tonight comes from Rami Ungar. Rami Ungar is the author of 5 books, with his most recent being Hannah and Other Stories, available now from BSC Publishing Group. He lives in Columbus, Ohio, and when not writing, enjoys reading, following his many interests, and giving people the impression he's not entirely human. Children of the night, descend with me once more into Rami Ungar's White Leaves, a Tales to Terrify original.
You walk outside. You look around on this chilly, misty Halloween morning, and you wonder if it snowed last night, because in front of you is an expanse of white. You blink wearily and sip your coffee, and you can see that there's no snow on the ground, just leaves. Hundreds and hundreds of leaves. Thousands, maybe millions. And that's weird because first off, you live in an apartment complex where the number of trees are too few to dump this many leaves on the ground. That's by design, by the way. Those pricks in the management office are anal about keeping the grounds and buildings pretty and immaculate, as if they're expecting to win an award at any time for Best Apartment Complex, and want to look good for the press coverage. Anyway, you would need a whole forest's worth of trees to produce this many leaves. And you have to wonder if someone left these leaves here on purpose. Maybe some group snuck into the complex in the middle of the night and dumped these leaves everywhere while you and your neighbors slept. And that's weird, for sure. But what's weirder is why you thought the leaves were snow when you first stepped out. They're all white leaves, several inches deep over the lawns and sidewalks. They don't look naturally white, at least not to you. Instead, they look bleached of color, as if the very concept of color was sucked out of them. You stare at the strange, colorless tableau, eyebrow raised, and then you look up and down the street to see if any of your neighbors have noticed this strange phenomenon. They have. Like you, they stand on their porches that are identical to yours, gazing about them in wonder. Some, like the retired couple across the street and 4 doors down, or the divorcee whose kids come by and cause trouble every other weekend, are dressed in robes and pajamas and are sipping their coffee in an almost compulsive manner, raising their mugs to their lips every other second. It's as if they hope that the faster the caffeine hits their systems, the quicker this weird vision in front of them goes away. You stop yourself as you raise your own mug to your lips, and you wonder how many sips of Java you've swallowed since you stepped outside and realized it wasn't snow on your lawn. Other neighbors, those who actually like interacting with the other families and tenants, are gesturing to one another and wondering aloud about the leaves. You notice 3 apartments whose owners often drink together on each other's stoops, carrying on a conversation, and their voices carry across the buried street to you. "Did you notice anything before you went to bed last night?" "Nah, I was passed out. You ever see anything like this? When I was a senior in high school, my entire class bought 100,000 sticky notes and covered the hallways with them. Maybe somebody had a similar idea. Man, you really think somebody got a bunch of funky-looking leaves together and pulled a senior prank? That's stupid." Other conversations like this are happening all over the street. None of them engage with you, however, and you have no desire to engage with them. You've never understood wanting to interact with strangers just because you live close to one another and no other reason. For all you know, these people might be weirdos who want to get you to join their religion or MLM scheme, or will talk your ear off about stamps or sports teams or their snot-nosed brats. No thanks. You move on from the 3 amigos across the street and spot the renters on the younger side of 30 taking photos and videos with their phones. The university students who decorate their cars with anime decals and dress like every weekend is Halloween are taking selfies while wearing colorful costumes. The guy with the bleached blonde hair who claims to be a YouTuber and tries to get anyone in the complex under the age of 18 to watch his videos is narrating to his audience and laughing at the antics of the anime fans. Still, others are acting fearful. They don't stay on their porches for long, but instead shuffle back inside. Some don't even step outside, but only stick their heads through their doors or glance out their windows. Every single one of these neighbors looks like a character in a horror movie peeking out to see if the sadistic killer or the velociraptor or whatever is nearby and it's safe to run to a new hiding place. What do they know that I don't? You wonder. Yeah, it's weird, but it's not worth getting paranoid about. It never occurs to you, a practical person who works with stocks and numbers and rational things from the comfort of your living room, that maybe these people are more in tune with their animal instincts. You have a few ex-girlfriends who believed in psychic abilities and getting in touch with nature, and they might have posited that these neighbors were more in touch with the world and can sense things you can't. According to these exes, your neighbors knew that this was more than just a weird situation. It's an unnatural situation, and likely a dangerous one too. And why did you date those girls? Sure, opposites attract, but these girls love everything you think is foolish, and they thought the same about your job and your interests. You should find someone more on your wavelength, to use one kooky ex's own words. Perhaps an engineer, or an accountant, or a fellow money manager. Someone who understands and appreciates order and numbers and the concrete world. It's something you should give more thought to when you have a moment. The only people who look on these strange white leaves with joy or excitement are the children. Kids and teens run and jump through the leaves, kicking and throwing them up like scraps of paper. Many of the kids are dressed in costumes, superheroes and princesses and monsters, and even a cowboy. You didn't even know they still made cowboy costumes. It's been so long since those were popular. And some part of you, a youthful part of yourself that you thought had died sometime between learning Santa Claus wasn't real and going to college to study economics and business, thinks the children look magical. There was Frankenstein's monster doing a circle dance with a ballerina, a witch, and a clown, while two heroes who had just appeared in a major blockbuster wrestled good-naturedly in the blanched detritus. Someone gets out a soccer ball and a couple of teens are kicking it around, laughing as the ball disturbs the white leaves. Yeah, that's kind of magical, you think, like something out of a fairy tale. You then notice that while the kids are enjoying the white leaves, the parents don't seem to be enjoying their children's merriment. In fact, the moms and dads are downright worried. They stand on their porches yelling at their kids playing in the white. Some, the more helicopter-minded of the parents, look downright fearful. "Timmy, get back in the house right now. Those leaves may have diseases on them." "Rachel, I know it looks like fun, but be careful. You don't know what's hiding in there." "All right, kids, get back inside and finish your breakfast. The school bus will be here in 20 minutes. None of these parents step off their porches. Not even the more overbearing ones. They only stand in place, seemingly as scared as those neighbors who refuse to step outside their homes and continue to call out to their young. And while you don't believe in primal animal instincts or psychic intuition, you do believe in parental instincts. And you wonder if these parents sense a threat. But they're not sure exactly what or from which direction, so they're hesitating to do something more drastic, like pull their kids inside by force. They want to wait for more obvious threat before they make a scene. If you were a parent like they were, would you be suspicious of these leaves? Would you want to pull your kids out of the leaves, but hesitate because you didn't want to make a scene? You never had kids, but you've considered it, which is awfully impractical for a guy like you, given its hypothetical nature, but you've imagined having kids. You imagine having one now, maybe a boy dressed like a wizard, or a girl dressed like an undead princess. Would you be fretting like a chicken around your child, begging them to come inside? Or would you just let the kid be a kid and have fun while you drink your coffee? Someone is shouting. You turn your head around to see if it's someone in trouble. Instead, you see it's your next-door neighbor, the one you don't like. He's also dressed in a bathrobe, but his doesn't hide his enormous belly, and despite the chill, his skin looks red as he shouts into his phone. You hate that shout. You hear it through your walls at least once a week, and you always feel pity for whichever customer service agent is on the other end of that bastard's ire. What my rent is going to? I pay your salary. The least you can do is make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen. Then hire someone to come and clean this mess up. You know, this complex is really going downhill. First, you all don't enforce putting away holiday decorations in a timely fashion, and now you're letting people sneak in and dump a shit ton of leaves in our yards. Perhaps if you spent more money on enforcing the rules and not on new TVs and coffee makers in the clubhouse, this wouldn't be an issue. You roll your eyes and sip your coffee. Not for the first time, you imagine what it would be like if he moved somewhere else. Or better yet, if he got evicted for being a general pain in the ass and was forced to leave. That would be nice. You'd pay to see that happen. Then you hear a scream. You whip your head around, but all you see is a mass of curly hair disappearing into the white leaves. For a moment, all is still. The kids, the parents, the younger tenants, and even your asshole neighbor go silent, their eyes drawn to the spot where the girl disappeared. And then others are pulled into the sea of leaves. They fall in as if sucked underneath, one by one, each one letting out a piercing scream as they go under. And you notice something odd as they go under, something that doesn't seem right, but you can't quite place it. It's only when one of the teens playing soccer goes under, vanishes under the white sea, that it hits you. The leaves are several inches deep, but you should be able to see the kids under the leaves. Even the smaller ones laying on their bellies couldn't disappear entirely. There should be a little rise in the landscape indicating where they are. But there are no rises in the leaves, let alone any children sticking out or teens half buried in the leaves. "It's like they've fallen down a rabbit hole," you say aloud, your voice a half whisper. You watch as the remaining kids run for the porches, their faces now portraits of terror. It seems they've finally caught on to what was worrying their parents, who reach out for their brood to pull them to safety. Some make it and are swept into their parents' protective embraces. But many, the ones that are too slow or are too far, or whose legs are too short for quick movement, fall into the leaves, dropping like they stepped on the covering of a pit trap. Where they disappear, geysers of blood shoot out from the leaves. At first, it only starts where the first kid, the one with the curls, fell. Like Old Faithful, except it's red, deep red. And then others spurt out, staining the expanse of white red and filling the air with the smell of copper. There's 20 in total, and there's no mistaking what you and your neighbors are looking at. Mouths are hanging open in shock. Even your asshole neighbor has gone silent. His hand falls to his side and his phone slips out of it, landing with a crack on the concrete steps. Suddenly, you feel something warm and wet on your legs. You look down, wondering if you've pissed yourself. Instead, you realize you've dropped your mug, spilling coffee on yourself. You didn't even realize that you dropped it. As you look back up, it's as if a spell is broken. Everyone is screaming in terror. Parents nearly toss their surviving children into their homes, while those who have lost their kids keen and reach towards the geysers in horror and grief, as if begging for the return of their babies. Everyone else rushes inside their homes, slamming their doors behind them. You rush inside and slam your door as well. Then you jump to the picture window, looking out onto your front lawn to check the scene. The geysers are gone. Their victims bled completely dry. And that's a terrifying thought, isn't it? Those children are all victims of the white leaves. It's almost impossible to believe, but there it is. The children and teens are victims of the white leaves, or whatever is under the white leaves, or whatever the white leaves really are. You wonder if any of those whimsical exes of yours would know what is outside now. Perhaps you should call them and see if they know. That is, if any of them are alive. Because you haven't considered if this is happening beyond your complex. Where else could this be happening? You rush to the small table in the middle of your kitchen dinette where you've left your phone. On the screen is an alert, the kind reserved for missing children and tornado warnings and bad guys with guns who haven't yet been shot down by good guys with guns. You click the notification and a message appears in black capital letters. Multiple homicides reported throughout the city. Cause unknown. Exposure to chemicals or biological agents possible. Reports of white leaves or figures wearing costumes made of white leaves unconfirmed at this time. All citizens are advised to stay inside until further information is available. Chemical or biological agents. You wonder if that's what's going on. But then there's that part about white leaves. Unconfirmed? More like 100% confirmed. And now that you think about it, maybe a chemical or biological agent is the cause of the white leaves. Maybe they affected the leaves and affected your senses, making you hallucinate. But then, how did so many of those white leaves show up overnight in your complex? And what's this part about figures wearing the white leaves as costumes? You jump as there's a sudden thumping on your window. You spin around and see someone standing at your window, looking in. No, Not someone. Something. A vaguely human form, maybe 5 feet tall, and even before you cross the room to the window, you know it's covered in white leaves. Or maybe it's made of the leaves. And for some reason, maybe it's your primal psychic instinct kicking in. You think that's the most likely explanation, that whatever this thing is, its body is made entirely of leaves. You stop in front of the window and stare at the thing. It has no eyes, but you feel like it's staring back. It raises one trunk-like arm and slaps its oven mitt-shaped hand against the window, producing the thumping sound that startled you a moment ago. It then points in the direction of your door. It wants to be let in. Beyond it, you spy other figures. They have no legs, just torsos that extend into the ground as they glide across the expanse of white. Some go up to windows. Others glide up onto porches, the white leaves trailing behind them like wedding trains. They pound on the doors and windows with their rough arms, resembling ghosts come trick-or-treating. How appropriate, given that today's Halloween. The one in front of your window pounds on your window again and points emphatically at your door. It wants to be let in. You know that if you let it in, that it will be the end of you. A scream outside catches your eye and you look past the leaf figure in front of your window. Your asshole neighbor has been pulled off his porch and into the sea of white. He disappears into the leaves, and a moment later, an eruption of red shoots out, dyeing everything around it a shade closer to black than dark red, especially against the bleached leaves. In your horror and fear, you don't think, only act. You grab the cord that controls your drapes and pull them closed, cutting off the leaf figure's view of your apartment. As it pounds indignantly on the window, you rush through the darkened apartment to your kitchen dinette and to your phone. You pick it up, intending to call... who? The police? The military? Your ex-girlfriends? It doesn't matter, because there's no service now. Your Wi-Fi and the network are gone. Even the emergency message has vanished. And a moment later, every light in your home goes out. Literally in the dark now, you turn back to the window. The pounding stops, only to start up again at your front door. You only stand there, holding your useless phone, and wonder what you should do now. And while you figure that out, you hope that whatever these things are can't open doors, or worse, force themselves under the crack between door and floor. If they do, you're dead. If you're not already dead, that is. And there's a thought. Are you already dead? Are you just avoiding the inevitable? This may be the way you're supposed to go. In which case, perhaps you should let the white leaves in. A deep depression settles over you. If this is how you die, what was the point of your life? You have no family left, and nobody you could call a friend. Every girlfriend you've ever had has left you, and honestly, you can't blame them. You never did anything interesting with your life. You have no hobbies, no talents, no major accomplishments. All you ever did was help make rich jerks richer in return for a pittance of a manager's fee. And in the face of what's outside, that doesn't matter much, does it? You suddenly wish you'd had that kid. Doesn't matter how you would have that kid, with a former lover or through adoption. You wish you had had that kid, or even just a pet. Someone to love and depend on you, and whom you could put your own love into. If you did, then even if your death was inevitable, you could meet it fighting, not like how you're going to meet your death now, alone and miserable. You drop your phone to the floor. It doesn't shatter, but you don't care. It's still as useless as it was before. Instead, you pull out a chair and sit facing the door where the pounding goes on uninterrupted, the thing on the other side demanding to be let in.
That was Rami Ungar's White Leaves, as read by Andrew Gibson. Andrew was pulled feet first from the swamps of South Louisiana, kicking and screaming, and remains mostly as such to this day. You can find his work on Audible under Andrew Gibson, or, for the more romantically inclined, Blake Lockhart. You can also catch him streaming his recording sessions live in the Narrator Nook and the Haven Discord servers. Links are in the show notes. Thank you, Andrew. Well, children of the night, the hour is late and we've run out of tales to tell. For now. Tales to Terrify is made possible by the tremendous generosity of our supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Incredible fans like Lestle Baxter, Amanda Carrillo, Amanda Gottfried, and Orion D. Hegre, whose generous support keeps these lights on and flickering ominously. If you're not a supporter, head over to patreon.com/Tales to Terrify. You'll find all kinds of perks, like ad-free episodes, bonus content, and one-of-a-kind collectibles. Every dollar goes back into this show, and we appreciate your support so much. Want another way to support the show that doesn't cost you a cent? Head over to Podchaser, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star review. You'll not only put an unnaturally wide smile on our faces, but help new listeners discover our terrifying tales too. You can show your love of the show out in the world with some Tales to Terrify merch. TalesToTerrify.com/merch will take you to our TeePublic store, where we've got a great collection of creepy custom and curated designs. Tales to Terrify is produced by Seth Williams, Meredith Morgenstern, Andrew Gibson, Crystal Hammond, Spencer Disparty, and myself, Drew Sebastini, with original theme by Nebulous Entertainment. Tales to Terrify is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Join us again next week as we explore distant hostile lands for more Tales to Terrify.